Imagine, if you will, you list your home in this hot seller's market. You put it out there expecting all this multiple offers and everyone to be bidding it up, and all you hear is crickets. Nothing comes in. You feel like you just planned for this big party and nobody shows up. Or worse yet, you think you're going to list it low and have all these multiple offers come in, and you end up just getting one. It's at your list price, but you really weren't prepared to take that number. You were advised to list low and everyone was going to be a big frenzy. Now look at you. What kind of strategy was that? Maybe you needed to understand your strategies a little bit better. Choosing a listing price is a lot more than valuation. It's strategic as well. Now, we have another Mike Explains that goes into what is a listing price and how you come up with it. In this one, we're going to delve more into the three primary strategies that people use when choosing a listing price and go over the pros and cons of each of them. List low to create activity strategy, which is where the property is listed below the anticipated sales price with the hopes of generating a bidding war and thus driving up the price of the property. Well, first, you get a quicker sale and it helps keep the sense of urgency. Second, the buyers may get excited and bid up higher than they otherwise would have. Third, you may also generate better terms because of the competition. Buyers may come in waiving contingencies and things like that, or give you shorter escrow periods as a way. So you may get better terms under this list low strategy. And finally, you get kind of a buyer versus buyer dynamic instead of buyer versus seller. So it's kind of, they're competing against other buyers, not so much the seller. And that can sometimes be a beneficial sort of dynamic throughout the negotiating process. What if you don't get what you expected and these multiple offers? I've seen that happen. You know, sometimes when a buyer gets, and I don't know if this is the order, but sometimes a buyer bids up a property competing, and then during the contingency time, they start renegotiating and they feel like, well, they overpaid, and then you end up giving it back later on in that sort of situation. Often, a lot of buyers, when they think it's going to be this big bidding war and there's a big competition, they're sick of that. A lot of buyers just will step out of it. So you may be actually cutting the potential market for your property down in half or even more, where a lot of people, they just don't want to get caught up in a bidding war. It's just, it's something they're just not up for. So those are like the three negatives of that list low and bid up strategy. It's not all such this panacea as maybe some people might like to think. Quite honestly, it's sometimes easier for the agent, and yet all the risk is going on the seller. Just saying. The list high and negotiate down strategy, where you list the property higher than the anticipated sales price with the expectation of negotiating down. So on the pros of that is you can test the market. See, kind of try it up here and see how that works. You have that opportunity. Second is some buyers will just want to negotiate everything anyways. So at least they can feel like a winner there when they've gotten some off the price. So now on the cons of the list high and negotiate down strategy is, well, first of all, you'll be compared with superior properties. So as an example, you want to list it $1 million. Your property's really kind of a 900,000, should be at 900,000. You'll be compared, buyers will be comparing you, I should say, to other $1 million properties. So you will not be the best one or the best couple that they're looking at. So you're just going to help the other properties sell. You won't get an offer. That's one reason. The second reason, the second con, if you will, if this list high and negotiate down strategy is you'll accrue a bunch of days on market. So then there'll be no sense of urgency making the buyers write an offer. They'll go, oh yeah, that one over there. And then they'll see the days on market, and then they go from, yeah, that will still be there, to buyers actually going, wonder what's wrong with it. Nobody's bought it yet. So that's a kind of a big downside of this list high and negotiate down strategy. In addition, what it puts your agent in a position of kind of asking for an offer. I can't tell you how many times a seller said to me, well, just get them to write an offer. Just tell them they can make an offer. Well, if you're doing that, if you're just saying, hey, show it, well, what would you pay for it? And just, could you make an offer? We're already in a bad negotiating place. So if you find yourself wanting to tell that to your agent, you should be being ready for the conversation about maybe your price too high. And then the just right, or the Goldilocks strategy, where you list the property at as close to the anticipated sales price as possible. Yeah. So one of the pros is it's just more straightforward. You're laying it out for what you think you're going to be achieving. You're putting it to a close price to that, and it's just the simpler, the better kind of strategy. Number two is you can negotiate more confidently from that position of strength. You knew it's worth about this, you believe it's worth about that, the offer's coming in around that number, and you can negotiate fair and square from there. Kind of keeps it easier. Now, one of the cons of this is it's easy to say if you know what it's worth. Some properties are just hard to value. Then also another con is some people just have to negotiate everything. So you may get, you may put it out, you get your price, and then some buyers just always got to come in lower. They always got to be, it's like a sport to them. So if we're too close to that listing price, it may be a little bit of trouble with some of those buyers as well. At the end of the day, not one strategy works for all situations. You have different kinds of property, you have different kinds of people, you have different markets, and there's different strategies will work best for each of those situations. Also, you may start with one strategy and have to switch to another, and sometimes our ability to pivot is more important than the strategy we start with. A lot of times I like to say, you can do the same thing twice and get a different result, or you can do different things and end up in the same place. I find that so true in this real estate negotiations. I've been behind over 1,000 real estate transactions, so I have seen this happen time and time again. Now, I know this may seem like a lot. I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody about real estate pricing strategies and listing and all this. This is one of my favorite parts about real estate. So feel free to reach out to us here at the Mike Dunfee Group at any time. Thanks for watching another Mike Explains. Please share it with your friends, and if you've made it this far through the video, I'd like to thank you. Take care.